So Baltimore Ravens pass rusher David Ojabo is back on the football field, and the Ravens continue to do some work at that position for their pass rush as they're bringing in the breakout UFL 7-sack producer DN Malik Fisher. He has a workout on Monday, plus Lamar Jackson is at the final voluntary offseason OTA workout, back in there in the building, putting in some work. And we got all that and much more. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. It's been a few days since we've got to come on here and talk some Ravens football with you guys. I was on the range all week. You can probably see I got a little bit of sun, got some sunburn, but we are back and we have a lot to talk about from our Baltimore Ravens and a lot of stuff upcoming. So make sure you got that subscribe and notification bell on so we can keep you up to date on everything Baltimore Ravens. At number 1, let's dive in. We got some reports that Lamar Jackson has been throwing the ball very crisply at OTAs during several of these workouts. Lamar Jackson was back in Owings Mills for the last set of voluntary OTAs. We got the mandatory minicamp coming up in just a few days here next week. But Lamar, there was so much talk about, like, from the national media analysts just ripping Lamar apart, that he should be there and that just he's the worst, right? What's funny is he's been at several of the voluntary workouts, and when he hasn't been, there's been clips coming out of him throwing the ball with his receivers in Florida. So I think it's completely overblown and being talked about. People are just looking for content in the national media. But I'll leave it at that, all right? So Lamar, we saw him working with Zay Flowers in Florida, and that showed up back at OTAs whenever the best throw of the day from a workout was Lamar Jackson dropping a dime to Zay Flowers on a 30-yard touchdown in the corner of the end zone. We also got reports that Mark Andrews was getting a healthy dosage of catches, making his impact known. And Lamar Jackson overall was throwing the ball very crisply. This guy's been putting in work. You saw the weight he's lost. You see him throwing the ball in the offseason with his other receivers. All this talk is just completely overblown. But let's talk about, at number 2, another quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens that was added from the Patriots last year, right? Malik Cunningham, the former Louisville quarterback. And we know Lamar and Malik had that connection there. Malik Cunningham is officially converted to wide receiver, and it's not taking him long to transition because I'm reading several reports from several reporters that Malik Cunningham is all over the football field making catches and getting open for Lamar Jackson. He does have the quarterback's perspective, where to sit down in zones and make himself available, how to make the quarterback's job easier. And there's been several other players at different positions that have done this successfully. I think of Julian Edelman, who used to be a quarterback, and other guys who converted to wide receiver and had a lot of success, especially in those underneath routes, sitting down in the zones as slot receiver. And Malik Cunningham, don't forget the type of athlete he is. So he's got speed, he's got wiggle and burst, and he's also got the mindset of a quarterback on how, quarterbacks see routes and whatnot. Don't be surprised, based off the early reports, if Malik Cunningham makes this roster as a wide receiver. That would be really intriguing to see, especially if he made some plays, made some impact as another weapon for Lamar Jackson as a pass catcher. I love the way the wide receiver room is shaping out. Tez Walker, there's reports that he looks good. Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar. I'm fired up for this group of pass catchers. I think there's a great mix of veteran, young guys, talent. Let me know your guys' expectations for the wide receiver core this year. At number 2, Rich Eisen speaks on the best case scenario for the Baltimore Ravens, and he goes down quite the list. Take a listen.
And then the Baltimore Ravens, their best case scenario. Lamar does what Aaron Rodgers was the last to do. Back-to-back MVP. Kyle Hamilton is a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. The only reason why I'm not giving him the Defensive Player of the Year award is they don't usually award that to folks who play his position. Right. It's sort of like in the same way MVP is a quarterback-driven award. This is a sack-driven award, usually. Derrick Henry wins the rushing title. He is the number 1 rusher in the National Football League, the most yards at the position. Mark Andrews plays all 17. He stays healthy. And they eliminate the Chiefs, and they win the Super Bowl. And of all places, the spot where they won the Super Bowl with John Harbaugh, New Orleans. And there's no blackout.
So I absolutely love this. Back-to-back MVPs for Lamar Jackson. which is something that Aaron Rodgers accomplished, like, Rich Eisen was talking about. Kyle Hamilton, a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I think him and some other guys don't just have expectations as a finalist, but, like, this guy can go out and win it. Remember, his defensive coordinator, Zachary Orr, said he has that type of talent that, he wants to see him win a Defensive Player of the Year in Baltimore, which means he's not only the best safety in the National Football League, but he's also the best defender in the National Football League in that season. That's what Zachary Orr said about Kyle Hamilton. Rich Eisen goes on to say Derrick Henry wins the NFL rushing title. That would not be out of the realm of possibility from what we've seen from Derrick Henry and the type of benefit he could have in this offense. But I don't think the Ravens are going to want to overuse him with a ton of carries. I think they're going to want to, kind of keep him fresh at 30 years old to make sure he's strong for the postseason.
Well, I know this. If he carries it 300 times, we're having it. I can tell you that. It means we're running it a lot, right? It means that's we're up in games, right? We want him to finish. We want him to be the closer, right? First and foremost, like every player, we want him to make it through the season. It's a long season, 17 games. You got a bye week in there, and then you go from there. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, he's been so durable. But I thought we did a good job last year of rotating the backs. I mean, Gus was powerful, but we split the reps. Now we had Keaton who came on, and we had Justice and those guys, but I still anticipate the same of, using all of our backs, try to put him in the best position to be successful.
And that he also goes on to say Mark Andrews playing 17 games. We saw Mark Andrews over 500 yards, and I think it was 6 touchdowns or so throughout last season. He was on pace for about 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns if he would have finished the year. But then this is the big one here. This is what we want to see. This is what you train for all offseason. Beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Doesn't matter if you beat them week 1. I'd like to see them beat them week 1 and start off 1-0 and just prove to themselves, we can do this. Give themselves some more confidence for whenever they meet again in the playoffs, which I think is very likely, and then win the Super Bowl. There we go. Back in New Orleans, but this time he says with no blackout from the Beyonce concert or whatever. So I love this best case scenario from Rich Eisen on the Baltimore Ravens. If the Ravens can get a couple of these, checked off of here, but specifically win the Super Bowl, I'm going to be a very happy man. And I think the Ravens have the coaching staff and the talent to go out and win a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, he's hungry. This team, they saw how last year finished, and they're not satisfied. They're hungry for it. At number 3, the Baltimore Ravens are hosting defensive end Malik Fisher on a workout on this upcoming Monday. This is a player that played in the UFL this last year. He had 7 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 3 PBUs, pass breakups, right? He's a great athlete. He played in college at Villanova. In his final year of college as a senior, he had 51 tackles, 4 sacks, and an interception. Malik Fisher is still very young with a lot of potential. You see in production at the professional level. He's 26 years old. And let's see if, Chuck Smith, our outside linebacker coach, can make something of this football player. And this room is really rounding out to be a nice outside linebacker room with Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Owe, and at number 4, David Ojabo back on the football field. I still haven't given up on Ojabo. The talent's there. Just got to see him stay healthy. If he's healthy for the whole year, based off the sack production in college, his first real game action, coming back from that ACL injury as a rookie, getting a strip sack on Joe Burrow, and then getting a sack on, CJ Stroud, in the first game of the year before going down with that ACL. I think Ojabo, he's naturally gifted as a pass rusher. He has great feel, bend, awareness to go hit the quarterback. So I fully believe David Ojabo can find his way into this rotation. I also have some high expectations for some other guys that are going to take a step, like Malik Ham, the undrafted free agent from last year who made the roster, as well as Tavius Robinson, the 4th-round pick from last year, the rookie from last year. I like the potential in this group, especially under the tutelage and the coaching of the outside linebackers coach Chuck Smith, who helped the Baltimore Ravens lead the entire National Football League last year in sacks and led a triple threat defense when it comes to points per game, sacks. And at number 5, speaking of these guys, some of these outside linebackers, rookie offensive tackle Roger Rosengarten said that the hardest outside linebackers to block so far in these workouts have been Odafe Owe and Malik Ham. And I think Malik Ham is going to find himself on the football field this year. Remember what we saw against the Commanders last year in training camp for those joint workouts, and we saw what he did in preseason as well. He had some injuries throughout the year, but Malik Ham's got some talent and some potential, and several of the coaching staff has talked about him. Let me know what you guys think about the outside linebacker room in general. How good do you think this pass rush can be in 2024, especially with the big return, the big contract extension of Justin Madubuike, who led all interior defensive linemen in sacks? Man, I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys. Make sure to smash the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.